Elara, a gifted artist whose canvases often echoed the quiet solitude of her secluded life, found her world painted in shades of a single, consuming purpose. Her brushes, once dancing with vibrant hues, now seemed to merely trace the contours of a profound, unyielding love for her younger sister, Lena. Lena, fragile and ethereal, battled a rare and debilitating illness, a relentless shadow that had dimmed the light in Elara's eyes. Every waking moment, every whispered prayer, every desperate search for an answer revolved around Lena's delicate existence. Elara's dedication was absolute, her spirit a fortress built around the hope of a cure. She remembered a crisp autumn afternoon from their childhood, leaves crunching underfoot as they sat beneath an ancient oak tree. Lena, with wide, trusting eyes, had clasped Elara's hand, a tiny, fervent grip. "Promise me, Elara," Lena had whispered. "Promise we'll always protect each other." Elara, then just a girl herself, had squeezed back, a solemn vow exchanged in the golden light of a forever promise. That promise, now more than ever, was the bedrock of her existence. Then, a flicker of light pierced through the encroaching darkness. An anonymous benefactor, a ghost in the machine, extended an offer that felt both miraculous and unsettling. A substantial donation, enough to fund Lena's experimental, desperately needed treatment. But there was a condition, a price that made Elara's breath catch in her throat. She must surrender all her personal diaries to this unseen patron. These journals were not mere notebooks. They were repositories of her soul, holding her deepest fears, her most vulnerable secrets, the raw, unfiltered landscape of her inner world. Her initial reluctance was a visceral, painful protest. To hand over such intimate fragments of herself felt like tearing pages from her very being. Yet, as she looked at Lena, frail and fading, the agonizing decision was made. Lena's life, her chance at breath and laughter, dwarfed any claim Elara had to privacy. She would sacrifice everything. With the new treatment, a fragile hope began to bloom. Lena's condition, miraculously, showed remarkable improvement. The color slowly returned to her cheeks, the spark to her eyes. But as Lena began to mend, a new disquiet settled over Elara. Cryptic, unsettling letters began to arrive, their elegant script quoting passages directly from her surrendered diaries. Each phrase was a chilling echo of her own voice, her own forgotten thoughts. The letters hinted at a shared past, a forgotten connection, a history intertwined with her own that she couldn't quite grasp. A growing sense of unease, cold and unwelcome, crept into Elara's heart. The benefactor's true intentions, once seemingly benevolent, were now shrouded in a chilling mystery. One particular letter, delivered amidst a flurry of others, sent a shiver down Elara's spine. It contained a detailed description of a childhood incident, a moment of profound significance that only Elara and one other person had witnessed, a secret buried deep within her memory. It was an incident involving a betrayal, a promise broken by someone she had once held dear. The words clawed at her, forcing her to confront a painful past she had long suppressed. Frantically, Elara sifted through old photographs, her fingers tracing faded faces, her mind racing through the labyrinth of her memories, desperate to identify the source of this unsettling knowledge. The letter concluded with a chilling question, stark and accusatory, echoing in the silence of her studio. "Do you remember the day you truly lost everything?" Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. The haunting question from the letter, "Do you remember the day you truly lost everything?" resonated within Elara, a discordant note in the fragile harmony of her life. One evening, while tidying a dusty shelf in her studio, her fingers brushed against a small, intricately carved wooden box. It was an old music box, a gift from her childhood best friend, Liam. Hesitantly, she wound the delicate mechanism, and a sweet, melancholic melody filled the air. A sudden, vivid memory flashed through her mind. Lena, during a fleeting moment of lucidity just days prior, had hummed that exact tune. The coincidence was too profound to ignore. Liam. The name brought a fresh wave of guilt and regret. He had vanished without a trace years ago. After a devastating argument with Elara, An argument born from a lie she had told, a secret she had kept. The melody, once a symbol of their innocent friendship, now felt like a painful accusation, a reminder that her past actions might be inextricably linked to her present torment. The letters, once sporadic, now arrived with unnerving frequency, their tone growing increasingly accusatory. They were no longer merely quoting passages. They were dissecting them, exposing her deepest insecurities, her secret resentments, and most painfully, the precise details of the lie she had told to protect someone, a lie that had shattered Liam's world. Each word was a sharpened dagger, twisting in old wounds. Elara began to suspect, with a growing dread, that the benefactor was not merely an admirer of her diaries, but someone with a profound personal vendetta. Her trust, already frayed, began to unravel completely, replaced by a suffocating paranoia. Every shadow seemed to hold a watchful eye, every creak of the floorboards a whispered judgment. She felt exposed, vulnerable, as if her very soul had been laid bare for a vengeful ghost to scrutinize. Amidst this escalating psychological torment, Lena's health, despite the promising initial response to the treatment, took an unexpected and alarming turn for the worse. The improvement had been a cruel mirage. Her fragile body weakened, her eyes clouded with confusion, and she began to speak in fragmented, disjointed sentences. Names Elara hadn't heard in years tumbled from Lena's lips. Names from their shared childhood, names connected to the very past Elara was desperately trying to recall and understand. Lena's fragile state, her regression, amplified the urgency of Elara's quest. The letters, chillingly, began to hint that Lena's illness wasn't solely physical, but somehow tied to a past trauma, a hidden wound that festered beneath the surface of their lives. Then a letter arrived that brought Elara's world crashing down. Tucked inside was a faded photograph of Elara and Liam, their younger selves beaming with innocent joy, their arms slung around each other, a testament to a friendship now irrevocably broken. But it was the reverse side of the photograph that delivered the true blow. In meticulous, precise script was a confession from Liam, a detailed account of how Elara's lie had not only destroyed his family, but had also forced him to disappear, to sever all ties and vanish into the anonymity of a broken life. The words were a torrent of pain and betrayal, a raw outpouring of years of suffering. The benefactor, no longer content with cryptic hints, finally revealed themselves, not directly, but through a chilling final message scrawled beneath Liam's confession. "I am the consequence of your forgotten sins." The truth, a bitter, agonizing pill, settled in Elara's gut. The benefactor, the anonymous donor, the architect of her torment, was Liam, and Lena, her innocent, ailing sister, was unknowingly caught in the crossfire of his carefully orchestrated revenge. Overcome with a crushing wave of guilt and a terrifying fear for Lena's life, Elara plunged into a desperate, frantic search for Liam. The revelation had ripped through her carefully constructed world, leaving only raw, exposed nerves. She revisited old haunts, places etched with the innocent laughter and shared secrets of their childhood. The dusty corners of the local library, the forgotten paths through the old woods, the derelict arcade where they had spent countless afternoons. Each location was a ghost of a past she had tried to bury. She contacted estranged friends, individuals she hadn't spoken to in years, their voices often hesitant, wary of the woman who had once been so vibrant, now a shadow of her former self. Piecing together fragments of his life after his disappearance was like assembling a shattered mosaic, each shard revealing a glimpse of the man Liam had become. The shocking truth began to emerge. Liam, the boy she had betrayed, was now a brilliant, reclusive scientist, a mind whose genius had been honed by bitterness and solitude. And it was he, the very person seeking her retribution, who had developed Lena's experimental treatment. His motive, she now understood with chilling clarity, was a twisted duality. To save Lena, yes, but also to ensnare Elara, to force her to confront the very past she had so desperately tried to outrun. Elara finally tracked Liam to a secluded high-tech laboratory nestled deep within a remote research facility. Their reunion was an emotional maelstrom, a torrent of unspoken accusations and years of festering pain. Liam, his face etched with the weariness of 1,000 sleepless nights, his eyes burning with a cold, unforgiving fire, finally revealed the full scope of his meticulously crafted plan. He had intended to use Lena's recovery as a public spectacle, a cruel stage upon which he would expose Elara's past, making her feel the same agonizing pain and public humiliation he had endured. His voice, though calm, was laced with years of suppressed rage, each word a carefully aimed dart. With tears streaming down her face, her voice raw with an honesty born of desperation, Elara confessed her lie, her profound regret, and the enduring, unwavering love she held for Lena. She appealed to their shared history, to the unbreakable bond of their childhood, to the forever promise they had once made, a promise of protection she had so carelessly broken. As their confrontation raged, a devastating call came from Lena's hospital. Her condition had deteriorated rapidly, far beyond anything the current treatment could handle. She required an immediate, incredibly risky surgical procedure, one that only a handful of specialists in the world possessed the unique knowledge and skill to perform. Liam was one of them. His anger, though momentarily tempered by Elara's raw vulnerability, still burned fiercely, a barrier between Lena and her only chance at survival. With Lena's life hanging by a thread, Elara made a desperate, agonizing plea, a sacrifice born of pure, unadulterated love. She would publicly confess her past, endure the inevitable consequences, face the scorn and judgment of the world, if only Liam would save Lena. It was the ultimate test of forgiveness, a fragile bridge to redemption built on the ruins of their shared past. Liam, his face a mask of conflicting emotions, stood at a precipice. The weight of his revenge, the years of bitterness, battled against the faint echoes of their childhood friendship and the immediate, undeniable urgency of Lena's fading life. After a moment of intense, soul-wrenching internal struggle, he finally agreed. The surgery was harrowing, a meticulous dance between life and death, but Liam's skill, fueled by a complex mix of lingering affection and a desire for true justice, prevailed. Lena survived. In the aftermath, Elara, true to her word, made a public confession, facing the repercussions with Lena, weak but alive, by her side. It was a long, arduous process, rebuilding trust and healing the deep wounds between Elara and Liam. But with Lena's full recovery, and a future built on honesty and renewed hope, a path to forgiveness, however fragile, finally emerged.